Either one of those are fine. They would both. One is literally a contradiction, whereas the other is just unsupported by the complete and total lack of any kind of quality evidence for the supernatural.
You are conscious, correct?
I am pretty sure it's like one of the only things. It's basically the only thing I can be certain of.
Can you prove to me that I exist?
Can I prove to you that you exist?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I probably could, but the problem is that I wouldn't be able to have access to the content of your mind, so I wouldn't be able to know that I proved it to you.
Perfect.
But do you agree with the do you agree with the sentiment of Cotigo ergo sum?
Yes.
Okay, well then I proved it to you to the best of my ability.
Perfect. Okay. So now, as a conscious entity, we know that everything that we perceive is limited through our five senses. Even if it's quote unquote empirical evidence, we still have to filter it through our own mind. Would you agree with that?
That seems to be the case, yeah. The only way we can experience reality is through mental models.
There we go. All right. If there was a thing that existed outside of our perception, right, how would we be able to empirically prove it?
I don't think you would be able to, which is why I'm agnostic.
I feel you on that. I'm okay. I think we're getting somewhere. Do you think that humanity's collective consciousness has the potential to understand the universe in all its vastness completely at any point in time? Well, let's just say right now, do you think that we are at a point where we completely understand the universe?
No, obviously not. We don't have a quantum theory of gravity. There's all kinds of things we don't know. And then there's also mundane things like what's under this one rock on Mars. We have no idea. Now, I don't think that's really very important because that wouldn't increase our model of the way the universe actually works. Not really. Just procedural. I don't know what kind of knowledge you would call that. Just declarative, procedural knowledge. I don't know. Yeah. Whatever. Yeah. So there's nothing. It's not that deep, right? So, but no. So could we ever know everything about the universe? I mean, in principle, I'm not sure. It doesn't sound unreasonable. That doesn't mean it'll ever happen. I'm just talking about in principle, can it ever be the case? Maybe, maybe not. Now, I know like in mathematics, we have an incompleteness theorem, but does that translate to what we are able to know about the way nature works? I don't know. I don't know if that actually translates, or if that's like just literally purely a thing that applies only to like mathematical and logical formulas. So
okay. Now, last jump in logic here, and this is a huge leap. This is a reach. I'm letting you know this now. If we were ever at a point where we knew the complete total sum of declarative and procedural knowledge in the universe, would that, if we perceived ourselves from now as modern humans to that mythical human that knows the collective consciousness of humans, knows everything, would we consider that collective conscious of human intelligence that knows everything a god?
No, I don't think so, because if we live in a simulation, then all of the knowledge about this existence would be contained in that simulation. But whatever created that simulation is simply some sort of being of, it's not literally a, how do you want to say it? Like it's not a deity. It's not a god. It's not supernatural. It's just something of incredible technological ability. Now, there are people who say that omniscience doesn't mean that you know every single thing. It just means that you know, there's some weird convoluted, well, it's not really all that convoluted, but just some odd description where it's just like, no, God just knows all things that there are to be known. So, something weird, which could make the program that runs the simulation would make it omniscient with respect to the simulation. There's nothing about the simulation there's no information about the simulation that it doesn't contain. You could argue, except for emergent things that are unpredictable that emerge out of the simulation, I guess. But anyways, go on.
Ooh, that throws a whole wrench into things if we're talking about emergent things from the simulation that are unpredictable, or they're quantifiable but they're unpredictable. Cool. All right. Well, based off your definition of a supernatural entity, I definitely agree with you. There is no evidence of such thing. However, based off our earlier conversation, the limitations that humans have to gather evidence may make it literally impossible for us to ever discover such a thing. Because, entropy only goes one way. And by that, I mean, we can only think in the way that we're designed to think. Which gives me, I'm going to use the word designed here, which gives me only one clue here. If we are only able to think in the way that we're designed to think, there must be a designer. But with that being said, I think you're saying even if that is a simulation, that's just super advanced technology, not supernatural. And then at this point, it's a philosophy conversation. Because the supernatural is nothing more than advanced technology, or is our ability to understand something make something that is supernatural less supernatural.
Yeah, I find none of the theistic arguments for the intelligibility of the universe, the fine-tuning of the universe, or anything like that to be more supportive of something we don't know exists, which is an outside supernatural realm, over we don't know that we live in a simulation, but we know that a simulation is something that can be done. We make weak simulations. So I don't see how any of these arguments raise theism over an alternative naturalistic explanation such as that, or why we're even claiming that this universe even has a cause to it in the first place.
I will say this, and I'll leave you with this. I like the number of Googleplex for two reasons. One, it's a fun word to say. And two, that number has no meaning in our universe. Literally, it's so big it can't exist. If you wrote it on every single subatomic atom, you wouldn't have space to do it, right? But we came up with a thing that didn't need to exist just because we could. And I'll just leave it at that. You can take whatever you want from that, but we have the capacity to think outside of something that should be impossible for us to think outside of. Think outside the universe. Also, the universe is flat. So I think the earth is flat, but that's a joke. Anywho, have a good one.